This is another example I had of a video game niche gamer took to social media to claim it would be punished by PR firms working for video game developers if it covers Elon Musk criticizing Xbox global product marketing managers' recent comments about gamers, which I'm curious. Let's see what Elon Musk said about this guy, and also what the guy said about gamers.
No matter what type of severe asthma you have, Tespire can help you have fewer attacks.
Worried about the future growth of your industry to the point where you're being forced to do layoffs because you're worried about said growth. You'd think it would be one of the, for Xbox.
Microsoft Global Marketing Manager deleted her tweet after corrects her. Okay, so what'd she say? Raise your hand if you're not a white man and you buy video games. No hate to white dudes. It's just another day in the gaming industry that minorities have to fight to prove they exist. What are you talking about? Like, what is this imagined plight? Like, there's this attitude of like there's a bad guy around every corner and they're out to get you. People are trying to just live their lives. The only people that care about crap like this are people that are convinced that there's a fight to fight, and most people ain't trying to fucking hold you down. They're trying to hold themselves up. And this weird thing of I'm not like of hating white guys, but then acting like that's not also racist and stupid. Like, your principles aren't math in there, you know? It's like you should stick to your principles. If it's bad to be racist, then it's bad to be racist to everybody, not picking and choosing which group it's okay to do with. Like, is a poor, toothless guy that lives in a trailer, you're trying to tell me he's on a higher level of the hierarchy than anybody that's black or brown? Like, that's stupid. Like, it's not about your skin color. Your skin color does not fucking matter. It's a better way to judge people is based on class. Like, to assume things about people based on class is much, much better than to assume things based on race. Like, race is not who you are. Your skin color is not who you are. Your values and how you treat people, your character, that's what matters. And like this exclusion of white people or white men because white women kind of get on the oppressed side because the fact that they're women. So that's part of the ideology that misogyny and stuff. So like they're partially victimized, but not quite. But white men are completely excluded, so it's okay that you're shitty towards them. It's okay to dismiss anything that they say, because basically what she's saying is like, if you're a white man, I'm not talking to you. Don't give me your opinion. And like, that is hate. Like, she's trying no hate to white dudes, but that is hatred. To dismiss somebody based on the color of their skin is racist, and you can't do that.
This is the global head of marketing. He deleted that tweet. Rexer mattered to the narrative. Says, why did you feel the need to phrase the tweet like this? Why can't you just raise your hand if you like games? Are you aware the largest demographic of gamers is Asian, not white men? What fight is happening today? And of course, she follows up, I know the graphic information isn't accurate. I never said it was. Immediately, this person goes protected. They issue an apology.
It wasn't poorly worded. It was just shitty. You asked people their opinion and you said, oh, not white guys. Like, if the principle of the matter is inclusivity, then excluding somebody based on their race is inherently bad. It doesn't matter. Like, it just kind of shows that you are racist, which is kind of funny considering your picture looks like you're white. But it's this weird fucking thing. Like that's how you know that like you're kind of trapped in a bad ideology, is if you try to change up the nouns. So um, raise your hand if you like video games, except black people, black men. I don't want to hear from you. Like you can you can change up the nouns and the verbiage to kind of red team yourself and check to see if what you're saying is principled or not, because that's not, like, you can't expect, like, also your expectations of people, do you hold yourself to that same expectation? Like, you got to live by your principles and treat people based on a fair, principled point of view. You can't just pick and choose who you're going to hate. You shouldn't hate people anyways. If you're frustrated, cool, deal with it. If somebody did something bad to you, distance yourself from them. But to hate a group of people based on a demographic description is stupid. Like, don't think of people as their group. Think of people as a person, as the individual. The gaming industry is incredibly diverse, and the more voices we have creating, watching, and playing games, the better. There's room for everyone. Yes, but you said, I don't want to hear from the men, white men. So that is the problem. It wasn't badly worded. It was just kind of shitty to exclude somebody. Like, imagine you are picking for a team on dodgeball and you exclude somebody just because you don't uh, they're black. It's like, well, it's not that I have anything against you. It's like, but you just said because I'm black. It's like, I shouldn't have to it's amazing because I feel so stupid trying to explain this, because it's like, yeah, it's clearly bad to do that, but for some reason she doesn't understand that what she says was shit. So I kind of feel like I'm dumb for trying to explain it. Like, of course people get what I'm saying. Like, I shouldn't even have to try to explain this, but I'm met with clear evidence that this lady thought it was cool to say, fuck off, I don't want to listen to you because you're white and you're a man. It just don't make no sense. Like, when I was growing up, we were taught that it was bad to do these, to exclude people based on color of their skin, any of that stuff. You were taught to be nice and inclusive to everybody. But somehow the liberals have kind of gone full circle to where they're just as exclusionary and discriminative as the image they have in their head of conservatives. Like, it's a weird thing to see people that preach inclusivity now turn the head and say, not you. It's a little weird.
They get destroyed for that as well, because it seems all too, because, well, they're certainly very clear at this point who they are. Now, she, as of this point,
yeah, that's a bit of a bummer. But yeah, Elon Musk, although he is kind of a douche when it comes to actually holding his principles to a higher standard, he's not really about free speech. He just kind of has an obsession with Twitter and wanted to be able to say whatever he wanted, so that's why he bought it. But when it came to the Indian president, he helped Modi crush their freedom of speech. He fired Don Lemon because he didn't like the questions he was asked. He put a slap suit on a guy because he said something he didn't like, and it got thrown out of court because it was clearly a slap suit. Slap suits are basically lawsuits you use to punish people even though you don't have a case, because you can bring a lawsuit against anybody. So that's what a slap suit is. Not all states, but a lot of states have anti-slap suit statutes written into their laws to protect people from assholes that like to sue people. But he's not wrong when it comes to his criticism of the ESG scores and stuff like that. Which the ESG score is, like I was talking about earlier, the access and influence that is kind of like gray, kind of, I call it gray influence. Even though you don't stipulate that the access and the money is dependent on you behaving a certain way, it's just implied, you know, like the undue influence of money and access is automatically, and people like BlackRock rely on that unspoken rule to control without overtly stating the fact. And that's the reason why Elon is kind of whiny and bitchy, because a lot of these companies, like most companies, like I think like 85%, and at least in part, are owned. Their stock is owned by BlackRock, Vanguard. There's like 3 big $1 trillion hedge funds that invest and own stock in like almost every company. And if you have somebody divest from your company that's that big, it can crash your stock. So they know that. So anything that these guys come up with, which they came up with this thing called the ESG score, and depending on how well you do with liberal talking points and inclusivity, diversity, stuff like that, which on its face it sounds good, but the actual practice is kind of accentuates the demographics over character, demographics over principle. So, you know, it's like, well, you can't hire too many white people. You have to have a diverse. Nevertheless, that meritocracy should be what you should. You know, people that work hard should be rewarded for it. It shouldn't be just because, and even to the people that gain from diversity hires end up suffering from it. It's like, yeah, you think, but it's being hired based on just being handicapped or whatever. Nobody wants. It's just kind of like a pity throw. It's people want to be seen for what they can do, their abilities, not what they were born as. Like whether you get rewarded or punished, people don't want how they're born to matter. Like that's the way it's supposed to be. But the ESG score kind of pushes these things, nevertheless, of their efficacy or if they do any good or not. It's just the ideology of that these people have. Like this is a video of Larry Fink, I think is his name.
Behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. What we are doing internally is, if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay, you have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
Yeah, that's never mind the fact if there is capable people available to hire. He's like, that's tyranny. It doesn't matter if he puts a nice face of like, I'm doing it for a good reason on it. What it does is it forces people, and you never want to be forced. Like that's the whole point of America is freedom. Freedom is often messy, but it's free, you know? So the thing that a lot of people are getting away from is asking for safety, and in return they give up freedoms, and that's how you lead to tyrannical governments. You ask more and more laws to be done, more and more things to be done about things that really are not controllable with a population as big as America. And you get a government that goes away from its mandated goal, which is in America to serve the people. So outside of collecting taxes and providing services to people, they also ask the government to start mandating behaviors, which is unconstitutional and wrong, because there's a million flavors of different ideologies and way people live, and to force it on people, which is what Larry Fink does. He's also in charge of BlackRock, by the way, which is a over $1 trillion company or hedge fund. And that's crazy. That's why you see so many companies, whether they want it or not, being forced to include people that aren't capable of keeping the job. And places like safety and military and stuff like that, forcing people that aren't capable into these positions just because they happen to be a woman or black or whatever. And that's detrimental to everybody. It's like we should allow meritocracy to take its course, and then have social programs fill in where people can't succeed. Like it's a middle ground thing. It's neither pull yourself up by bootstraps, which is stupid. People are born unfortunate enough to where pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is not an option. So people do need help. And as a society, we should want to help each other. That requires funding for schooling and stuff like that. And keeping money-hungry politicians out of power positions is our responsibility as voters. But it's hard to do that when you can just buy a politician. You can, like, the judge that was being bribed by the billionaire, send them on trips and stuff like that. That shouldn't be allowed. That's how we stop corruption in government, is by getting money out of it. But if you force everybody to act a certain way, that's not what anybody wants. And even if it's like the principle, like I keep harping on, the principle is the problem. If your principles are bad, then the system is bad. And he might be forcing for what he thinks is a good reason, but forcing anybody is a bad thing. Like, you can't force people to act a certain way. Like, that's 1984. That's Orwellian. You can't engineer behaviors or force a behavior on a population. There's just too many different people. The best thing you can hope for, which is what, they found out 200 years ago when they wrote the Constitution, is freedom, lesser government, and you don't try to write laws to govern people's behaviors as an individual. It's not your place as a government, but they're trying to change that, because ideologies basically are the new religion nowadays. And just like the Puritan stuff that so many laws forced on people back in the day, nowadays it's the liberal, it's the self-righteousness of these people, these ideological people, that ruin it for everybody else, because they want to force everybody to act right. It's just like the religious Puritans when they burned the witches and stuff like that. It's just not a good thing to have. It's better to have freedom and it be a messy room than to have a clean room, but you get beat if you step out of line.